Welcome to From the Honeycomb podcast. I am your host, Katerina Borenova. Join me as we explore stories of fearless female entrepreneurs and inspiring women in architecture, construction, engineering, and beyond. Each episode is a captivating blend of topics that resonate with the soul. Whether you're here to learn more about entrepreneurship, architecture, holistic living, or just need a little extra inspiration, you've come to the right place. So sit back, relax, and let the buzz of positive energy spark your curiosity. Today, I am joined again by Tiffany Teoh, founder of the Traveler Series, a jewelry brand rooted in the idea that every journey deserves to be honored. Tiffany creates pieces that celebrate life's milestones, from weddings, motherhood, and the many moments that shape our identity, using jewelry as a way to build meaningful connections and tell a personal story. Beyond her artistry, Tiffany is a strategic business builder who has grown a seven-figure e-commerce brand from the ground up, guided by thoughtful branding and marketing. Her commitment to authenticity and storytelling shines through every aspect of her work. So Tiffany, welcome back to From the Honeycomb podcast.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
It is. And also happy 2026.
Oh my gosh. It's already been a whole year.
I know.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
I know. So quickly every year.
It does. It does. And for listeners, why I said welcome back again to the podcast. So Tiffany was on the podcast August of 2024, episode 140. I'll provide a link in the show notes. But it is so great to have you back, to have the first episode of 2026, starting off strong, inspired. So I'm really excited to dive in and see what you've been up to since you've been on the podcast last time.
Oh my gosh, so much. I don't even know where to start.
Well, let's start with sharing something that you are grateful for in the present moment. So what are you grateful for?
You're going to love this answer. I'm grateful for me. When we first had a podcast in 24, I was going through some personal stuff, and I don't remember if I shared it. I probably didn't because I was still processing everything. Basically, I went through a divorce. And from where I am now, I honestly feel so grateful that I'm able to go through that process while still running a business, while still maintaining all my friendships, while still, staying hydrated and all those things. So that's why my answer today is me.
Oh, I love that. And I think, I agree. There's a song, I think by Meghan Trainor. It's like, I want to thank me. And it's like, thank me for showing up. Thank me for doing all of this. And I think that's so important. Yes. Like, you showed up every day, regardless of what was happening in your personal life. Like, I know you were going through things when you were last on the podcast, and I know it because I follow you on Instagram. I don't believe we talked about it. We really focused it on your business. And so I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize too. For business owners, we may have this business growing and building, and we're showing up, and we could be having the shittiest day possible with real personal life stuff going, but we still show up. We're entrepreneurs. And so that takes a lot of strength to show up. And you have been, incredibly strong. And from all of that, and I think from that experience, I think it's made you, more resilient, and it's probably shaped you in more ways than you would have ever imagined.
Absolutely. I wouldn't say I've become harder, which is the biggest accomplishment. I've actually become softer, but stronger with my own boundaries, even with myself. Because like you said, as entrepreneurs, we can just push aside, compartmentalize any negative feelings, or if we're having a personal bad day, it's so easy for us to push that aside and just focus on the business or whatever needs to go running. And I've learned how unhealthy that can be especially when you're going through some very hard things in life. So what I've learned from all of this is to listen to yourself first before attending to the business. And I know a lot of entrepreneurs would be like, oh my God, that's so scary. Things need to be attended to now. Promise you, if you attend to yourself first, it's not going to take that long.
No, definitely.
And on top of that, you'll show up as a much less stressed version of yourself.
No, definitely. And I think that's one of the luxuries of having your own business. Yes, you work so much, but you get to choose when you show up and how you show up. And sometimes that does mean making the hard decision to step back and say, I do need to take care of myself before I can show up for my business. And that's really hard. That's really hard I've struggled through it in some moments of my business, and, I've learned, and I'm like, no, if I'm not taking care of myself, like my business is going to suffer.
Yeah, for sure. And also I'm really grateful for one of my team members who raised this to me, because I wouldn't say like I realized it on my own. One of my team members who's been with me for like almost 3 years just said to me like, Tiff, I can tell you are very stressed. You need time for you, relax, everything. Nothing will fall apart if you're not here. And that made me realize, okay, this is very obvious that I'm not my best self. It's time to do less of like, stop showing up as like not the best version of myself.
No, it's important. And it's good you have someone checking in on you as well.
Yeah. No, I have very good people around me. I'm very grateful for that too.
Well, great.
Hi, it's me, Katerina. Before we jump into today's episode, I want to share with you something that can change the trajectory of your life. If you are ready to start your own architecture firm but are feeling overwhelmed by where to begin, I understand, because I felt the same way when I first embarked on my entrepreneurial journey. This is why I have created the ebook, The Mindful Blueprint for Launching Your Architecture Firm. This comprehensive workbook contains everything I wish I had known before starting my own firm. From building a solid business plan to creating your brand, The Mindful Blueprint for Launching Your Architecture Firm offers a step-by-step guide tailored to your timeline, whether you're launching your firm today, next month, or in a few years. Dive into essential topics like financial planning, organization strategies, and how to secure your first client, all in one convenient resource. That's right, you don't have to spend hours researching. I have done that for you so you can focus on building your business. And that's not all. With your purchase, you'll also receive an exclusive meditation for business owners, mindfulness tips, a crystal guide for support, and gratitude exercises to help you stay focused and positive throughout your journey. Turn your dream of having your own firm into a reality with the Mindful Blueprint for Launching Your Architecture Firm. Click on the link in the show notes to get your copy today. Now, let's dive into the episode.
So, Tiffany, it's been about 1.5 years since you've been on the podcast. A lot has happened. So, would you want to summarize kind of what's been going on with you business-wise? If you want to touch into personal, anything you'd like, but business-wise, really, what have some of the changes been happening? I know you had a few collections were dropping around the time. So, what's been going on with the Traveler series?
Well, to be fully honest, like the past year, I admit, was quite slow in the sense where like normally I drop 3 to 4 collections a year, but I only dropped 1 in the past year. Again, that was quite tied to things going on in my life, but I'm not using that as an excuse. More like I'm reflecting now that this is what has caused that. Aside from that, I have consolidated. I used to have 2 brands. I'm not sure if I mentioned that before. And I've consolidated them into one. And quite funny enough, it's been so empowering. You'd think like having to merge 2 brands feels like you're becoming smaller, but I feel like it's actually made the brand stronger in the sense where like now I'm able to say the brand, the Traveler series, actually caters to different stages of life, whereas before I had 2 brands that catered to 2 different stages of life. So in a nutshell, that's mostly what's been happening in business.
No, that's amazing. No, it's interesting. So, and I love that you merged 2 businesses too, because I think that's wearing a lot of hats if you're managing 2 different businesses. So, what was the initial thought that you had that was like, okay, I'm going to now merge these 2 businesses? What was that thought process like?
It just had my ex's last name. And so I was tossing up between just renaming it into something else. But me being me, I would say I'm strategic, but I'm also a very emotional driven founder. So I thought it would be more symbolic to take all the designs that are in the second brand and house it under Traveler, where everything started, and just make it like a stronger brand. So that was the main reason why I housed them. Definitely, it has also helped reduce certain aspects of the workload. Like we don't have to do 2 kinds of marketing, for example.
Well, that's interesting. And it makes me think too is talking to a lot of entrepreneurs, they have what they're passionate about. So, right, for you, it's the jewelry making, the creativity, and you decide to make this decision. But then your business hat, essentially, your business side has to think, okay, now how are we logically going to merge this? And I don't know, was there any sort of paperwork, regulations, anything more administratively that took more time? Because it can be kind of daunting to make that decision. It's one thing to make it from like an artistic standpoint, emotional, like I'm going to do this, but then I'm sure there's like paperwork you have to file and things that have to be put in order from like a business side. Was there a lot of that, or was that kind of more seamless?
It was actually quite seamless. There was no extra paperwork to do. And because we're on Shopify, like I know you're in a service-based business, but in e-commerce, like I use Shopify as a platform. And it was so easy to just like export all the data and import it into the current brand. And then it was just a matter of letting certain, what's it called, licenses, certificates, registrations to just expire. I should mention that one of my team members did most of the work for me. So literally, I just had to say, like, this is what I want to do. This is how I want it done. And then she made it all happen for me.
Delegation.
Yes.
Amen. Sometimes, let someone else do a lot of that. That's another thing. That's another thing too. You have to ask yourself, am I the one who's going to do it or someone going to do it for me so I can continue, growing and working on the brand?
Yeah, honestly, from starting from the ground up, delegation is now my favorite thing to do. So much so that every time when there's a task that I think twice about it, I'm like, is this really important and urgent for me to do, or can it be delegated off?
Yeah. And I remember that was a big topic in our episode together. Our first episode together was talking about delegation. Delegation was a huge aspect of how you were able to grow your company. And so I know one thing we connected on recently, and I was hoping to reach out to you in the coming year, and then you reached out to me about a post I did about like the planning and why having a business, right? Like, and I think we wanted both to talk about that is because it sounds like from everything we've just been talking about is like you kind of had a plan, but then you didn't have a plan. Like, was it ever your plan to possibly combine the company? There's always like you have these plans in your head as an entrepreneur, and there's like choose your own adventure. Things happen in life, things happen economy wise, all these things. And it's like, do you have a plan? And where I'm going with that is you reached out to me because of an Instagram post I did about, do you need a plan if you're starting a business?
Yes.
And you're like, hey, this would be a great podcast episode. Let's talk about it. And I think let's start talking about it is, do you need a plan to have a business?
So like, this is such a common question as well that people who want to become entrepreneurs always ask, do you need a plan? And so my stance is not really. So it's a little bit different. Every entrepreneur would say something different. That's also what I realized. Some would be like, yeah, of course you need to plan for like, the next few years. And then some would say like, no. Well, some people like me would be like, I don't think you really need a plan in the sense where you don't even need like a 2-year, 5-year plan. For me, I think it's better, especially when you're starting out, it's better to focus on the first 6 months and treat it in like 3-month blocks. And what I mean by that is you have like a sort of vision on where you want to be in 6 months, like how many products, how many sales, etc. And then you break it up into half. So then by the end of the 3rd month, it gives you time to reassess. And the reason why I suggest is, especially for new entrepreneurs, is because it's very overwhelming. Like, your first few months in, some people will think like, oh, it's just about selling something. But then they realize there's all this coordination, all the finance and so many aspects to monitor that it will take you it's important to be able to monitor all those while growing. And I've made this mistake myself 2 years ago when I was scaling my company, where I was just thinking like, oh, now we're at a certain stage, we're good. We'll just like, keep scaling and forget to look at certain KPIs and such. And yeah, that I can say, don't do that, guys. It's very dangerous.
Yeah, I agree with you in the sense of like having a plan, but not having a plan. I think that's like I tell people when they're starting their own architecture business, like you need to have a plan. And in architecture, I think it goes a little bit larger because projects take so long. By the time you get a project to construction, it could be a year and a half because of the design of all of this. But I still tell, people wanting to start their own architecture business, you need a plan, but then like your plan's probably not going to go according to plan. So
exactly.
It's not like it doesn't have to be a full business course, MBA structured plan. It's, I think, a very loose of like how you said, where do you see yourself? What do you want? What do you want in 6 months? What do you want in a year? How many collections? Like for you, that makes sense to me. Is it's almost like a manifestation in a way. Here's what I want to manifest in 3 months, 6 months, a year, 5 years, whatever it is. And I think that gives you kind of a target or a path.
Yes.
But as entrepreneurs, we know like the path is always up and down and to the right and to the left and detours and who knows what's going on. And so I think I think you're right. Like your advice, I value it. And I think it's very important for anybody listening who wants to start their own business, whatever it may be, is have some sort of sense of what you want, but no, that plan, may not go according to plan, but at least you have kind of a guide map, like a roadmap of
Yes.
here's where the potential, and it gives you I think it organizes your thoughts as well of, okay, well, this is what I'm striving towards, what I'm working towards as well.
Yeah, it does. It gives you an idea of where you're going. Well, not an idea. It almost gives you like the motivation to get there, I would say. The moment you have, as an entrepreneur or founder, that the moment you have that vision, the thing that entrepreneurs and founders do is go towards their vision the moment they have it. And I've seen this happen quite a lot where they have a vision, but they have like a 5-year vision. And then by the first year, they go, oh, it's too hard, which it is. It is very hard, which is why it's very important to break it down smaller, especially when you're starting. But I would say, or at least I can speak from personal experience, when you kind of like establish, you've been through a couple of years, you kind of know like the cycles of things. That's when you can start planning for longer.
No, definitely. That's something I've been doing is I've been tracking when do I get projects? How big of a project? Who did I get the project from? Because I've been able to see, like, I knew going into October, November, December, January, I don't sign projects. Nobody is planning on starting their own. Like for you, I know, I'm sure the holidays are your busiest time. This for me
Yes,
is
it is.
yeah. So I'm very opposite in that sense. Is for me, this is kind of, I mean, I have a lot of work happening right now. Thankfully, I'm very grateful for the abundance I've had this year, but I don't see myself signing work up until February, March. And so I need to make sure come September, October, do I have enough to get me through those holiday period? And so I think that too is like, I think you said something really spot on about, once you're doing it for a few years, you kind of start to notice the patterns. That ends up being like the biggest information. Like that's like your golden egg of like, okay, here's what's been working, what hasn't been working. You have to constantly be tracking that data to help you in the future. And the only way you can answer how your business is going to do is if you understand what your business has been doing.
Yes, exactly. But that's also why, again, I highly recommend going in like smaller chunks when you're starting out. And also that's a very good point as well. Like I would say every business is different, which is why every business owner I've spoken to has like a different answer. Like, for example, like you just gave me a really great example where you'll have a almost 6-month period of like no signing, which means, you do need to plan for much longer than that. Whereas like, for example, my business in e-commerce, we can plan in quarters because sales seasons definitely, sorry, when I say sales, it's not promotions, but like selling seasons do change almost every quarter. There's like one usually big event every quarter or no event in a quarter that would like completely change like how much revenue we make.
And I think too, for you, even what collections you launch. Like I remember you telling me about your collection, like the one that's always kind of consistent was I think your like birthstones. But then you see like, because that's kind of every month that somebody has a birthday or something. But then there were those moments, because I think we even talked about like with the wedding, your wedding collections. Okay, well, obviously there's a certain spike during wedding season, but that can change too. And then you've got the holidays. And so like there's just, it kind of flows. And I think it's really important, like you've been tracking it and you know what works. And so when you're planning on launching a collection, how much do you strategize of like, I guess, what's the strategy you go into when you're thinking of launching a collection? Because I think you told me it was like, isn't it like 6 months to a year or something before you launch a collection that you've started to think about it?
It can be. And I would say a lot of people are not going to like me for this, but I would say it's a combination of that creative side where I just want to put something out with no strategy. And there are times when I'll be like, okay, this month it's like a great time to expand the bridal collection, for example. So it really is a mix of that. And I guess that's one of the privileges I get, having my own brand to be able to do that. But I would say the smarter way definitely is with the strategy. However, it definitely is a smarter way. But when I don't know if you can relate to this, but sometimes you just have this curiosity where like, I've designed something. I just want to see how it does.
No, I agree with that a lot. I think because we are both come from like that artistic, creative, and that's why I think too, it's always interesting to me, someone who's passionate about something and then they turn it into a business. And now you have your creative side, but then your logical side has to do the numbers and all the taxes and the corporation stuff and all the boring paperwork. but then there's that creativity. And then it's, when you have to make a business decision of, maybe it's a certain software program you're just wanting to buy. I had that issue a lot my first year is I really wanted to try this cool 3D modeling. And my architect side was like, yes, let's do it. Like, let's try it. Let's learn it.
Yeah.
And my business side was like, you don't have the money for that right now. Like, you need to wait until you grow your business and then you can, buy that software program.
That's the logical side. But do you ever just tell yourself like, oh, just get it. You're going to make that money back anyways.
Now that I have a cushion, I do. That's something I'm definitely, and that was one of the big things this year. I'm glad you bring that up is one of the big things I invested in this year is my website. Like when I first started, I just put together something on, I think, Wix.com and was like, at least there's something. Like if somebody Googles me, there is a legit company. They know I'm legit. And I knew going into the business, I was like, okay, I want to get more portfolio pieces. I want to get some client, referrals. I want to get some more that I can put into and invest into my website. And so I hired Liz Sidnor. She's been a guest on the podcast. I hired her to do my website. And I was just like, I knew it was going to be, more, it wasn't free. It's going to be expensive, but it was such a great investment. And I did it. The scary thing was I did it at the beginning of this year during a really slow period.
That's always the scary part to invest or like spend money during a slow period.
Yeah. I don't think I've talked about that on the podcast. I mean, I've talked about how it was a really slow period at the beginning of the year, really since fall of 2024 into spring of 2025. It was a really slow period, but I knew I made a list of like, what am I doing in 2025? And I was like, I'm going to elevate my business. That's going to be the theme. What do I do first? I'm going to update my website. So I invested. So in that sense, I guess, I mean, I was kind of worried, like the bills were higher because I was paying for this website, but it has been so worth it. I can, I can just tell. And when people say, oh, I was on your website or I saw something and I'm like, that's right. You were on my website and it looks really cool, doesn't it? It looks really professional. And so I think, sometimes you have to invest, like you have to spend money to make money. And in this way, I definitely think because of my website, I have gotten work. Absolutely.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm so happy to hear that. Great investment.
Thank you. Yeah. What about you? Are there any things you've invested in that you were like, is it going to pay out?
I feel like, let me count. I'm roughly about 6 years into my business now. So now, no, because I kind of know my, like even when I was going through personal stuff and I wasn't fully able to be myself, I still know what my baseline revenue, profits, etc. is. So I do make more calculated decisions. So even when something is expensive, I'll be able to go like, oh, well, there's this much revenue, even if it's during the slow period, I know like we'll make this much in like the next month. So it's worth investing. And so this is like the more logical business side now. And I also assess how much money will it either generate or save. And so every software I've invested in does both. It saves and generates more in its own way. Like, for example, the most expensive thing I invested in the past 12 months or so was an inventory planning software. It's pretty expensive. It's like 5 figures a year, like around 12,000 Australian dollars a year. But it saves me a lot on accurately counting how much inventory we need. So the amount it actually saves me makes it quite worth it. But on top of that, because it also saves me time, I'm able to use that time to generate more money elsewhere. So this was that's one of the most expensive softwares that's also very needed when you scale. That was quite an surprisingly easy decision for me. I know it sounds really expensive, but I was like, oh, actually, no, it's so worth it considering what it does and what it can do for my business.
Absolutely. And I was just thinking of, you're talking about scaling. And you're definitely further along in your business than I am. I'm about to hit my 3-year anniversary in February.
Oh,
and
wow.
Thank you. I feel like it's such a baby business, but yet like, the growing pains are kind of, I'm like, there's like, I feel like the next 2 years are going to be good and there's going to be other growing pains. Each year is going to bring something else. But now that you are, 6 years into your business, we talked about having a business plan to start your business. But what about the plan to scale your business? How does that work? Because that's something, and really I'm asking for your advice at this point, because I think that's what's coming for me in this next year or so is scaling. So how do you make a plan to scale?
Oh, I wish I could give you like a really expert, solid advice. But here's the very interesting thing because like people
Mhm.
tend to think I'm a really good planner, but I'm actually not. I mean, my like having a business definitely trains you too, but it doesn't come naturally to me. So I'm not sure if I
Mhm.
can give the best advice with scaling aside from actually I had this conversation with my partner recently. A lot of people when they scale, and this is including me, a mistake that I've made where like I said, I scale, like I was just so focused on like getting more revenue without
Mhm.
looking at like the efficiency of every KPI just because I thought, oh, revenue will always, cover everything. And
Mhm.
so the best way I can like simplify it is like when you're building a house, you don't just like lay the cement and then put the bricks on and then put another layer of cement and put the bricks on. You wait till like
Mhm.
that bottom layer dries first before like adding
Mm.
another one. That's the best way I can. Yeah, that's sort of the best advice I can give. So when you're scaling, you start to think, say for example, like, oh, I need a new staff member. Instead of
Mhm.
hiring someone like full time right off, start small. I don't know if you guys do casual in
Mhm.
yeah, you do. Okay, yeah.
Mhm.
So start casual. If they turn out to be like really good or like the right fit for you, then go into part time. And then if they continue to prove themselves well, offer them full time. Like that's one example I can give.
Mm. That's good advice. That's something I've actually done this year. So we call it like contracting out, at least well in the architecture world, you can contract work out. So it's like called 1099. That's the form, that's the tax form you get. You can have a 1099 contractor out. And that's actually something I've started to do this year. I've actually 1099 three different individuals. And it's been interesting to see how they work out. So I like this advice because it sounds like I'm following what you're saying is like,
Oh,
try it
awesome.
out because it's scary to be hiring someone, especially like I don't know how it works in Australia. In the state of California, the employee requirements, there's employee taxes, employee
Mhm.
insurance, additional stuff like to even have an employee, it just like there's so much more
Yes.
paperwork and things like that, right? And healthcare and all this other stuff for them and benefits. And so I think it's smart, like you said, try them out too, because you hear so often, and I've had friends who have worked at firms. I had a friend who worked at an architecture interior design firm that scaled really quickly. Like within 5 years, I think they tripled their office. And they
Wow.
had, which is crazy, they had amazing work, but no systems. Like nobody knew
Oh
what was
my
doing.
gosh.
Because it's like
Yes.
they went from I think like 8 people, yeah, so to like 24. That's three times, and nobody knew what was going on. No, there was no standards, nothing, and it was just like. So she ended up leaving because she's like, I don't know what's going on here, and so it's like it's that scariness of scaling too fast, and then do you scale too
Yes.
fast? Do you scale too low? I think it's finding that right rhythm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, with scaling, and this is just my personal opinion, again, every business owner has their own like perception on this, but I don't think scaling should be treated as a race. Because the moment you treat
Mm.
it as a race, you start to, sacrifice certain things for it. And it is a lot more work to then, especially when you're bigger, it's a lot more work to identify where's the leakage now to fix
Mhm.
it. So definitely, yeah, go at your own pace, whatever honestly makes you satisfied. I know some people are not satisfied with growing slow. So, okay, grow fast, but don't forget to, like I said, systems. Don't forget to like put in the
Mm.
systems. Definitely don't leave employees to manage their own departments. You need to have like their own KPIs for them. Yeah.
Yes.
I heard this saying where an employee is only as good as the systems you give them.
Mm.
And that's so true.
That is a great quote. That is a great quote because it's so true. And it's, I think too, it's something like even I've experienced as I'm with the three people I know, I was giving them different kind of work to work on and seeing like what strengths and who can I use for what. And it was kind of daunting at first because I'm like, this is the first time I'm teaching someone my
Oh,
system.
yes.
Like I
Yeah, the
came up
first
with
time
this
is
system.
always scary.
It is. And I'm just like, and I'm like, is it too much in my head? Is it too complicated? And so, like, things have worked out. It's a huge learning for me because that's another hat now you have to wear. Not only are you like the creative of the company,
Mhm.
you're the business owner of the company, and now you're like the manager of the company and you're managing people. It's like all of these things and all of these decisions. It's just like, it's a lot, right?
Yes, it is a lot. Again, that's why breaking up into more digestible cycles is really important than taking on like a whole year plan. And you're going in a very normal direction, especially like for a lot of creatives. Like a lot of creatives are talented at what they create, and then they realize, hey, people will actually pay me for what I create. And then as it like, keeps increasing, that's when you start to go into needing to manage, like look at the financial sides, like needing to learn, like you said, all those contracts and administration, and then like the managing people. It is definitely a lot. And it's probably something, I'm not sure if that's something you predicted, but it wasn't something I predicted for myself.
Yeah, it can be hard to predict what's going to happen. Like, or you think, like, going back to having a plan, you think something is going to happen later than it does.
Yes.
And like, even this year, it was kind of on my list. Like at the beginning of every year, I do like my quarterly goals. Here's what I plan, how many projects I want to sign this quarter, this quarter, this quarter. And previous year, it was so unrealistic. I didn't have the data that said like, oh, the first 3 months of the year, you may not even sign a project. Like you might sign one. And I was like, I'm going to sign 3. And then I was so disappointed with not being able to sign. Yeah, I was like, I didn't make my goal. But then following the data, knowing what was going to happen, then this year I made much more realistic. I've hit every single goal. I've surpassed my financial goal. Yeah, thank you. It's been incredible. But it's like, how do you sometimes know when you're going to predict stuff or when it's not? It's like, you kind of just do the best you can, I think. I mean, I don't, what do you think?
Yeah, you definitely can't predict stuff when you're still new, unless you have a mentor in the exact same field or doing the exact same thing that you can learn from. So that's where you can get data from someone else. But when you're accumulating your own data, I would say it is quite hard to predict because like you, I also thought like, oh, I'm going to release a new collection in January. Like everyone's going to love it. It'll be like summer here in Australia. And then I realized everybody's on holiday in January. No one's really thinking about shopping because you're spending their money on holidays. So yeah. I think I only realized that after my second year as well, like going into my third year. So yes, there's some things you can predict. Like I'll use again, like my industry as an example where the holiday season will be a time when people are shopping. But there were things, like for example, the post-holiday season that wasn't very obvious to me at first. I did not predict for.
No, it's hard. If we knew what was going to happen, we would all be super, super successful. Like we would, there wouldn't be the growing pains. Like if we all had a magic,
there's no mistakes made, etc.
Exactly. It'd be like we'd all be billionaires at this point if we all could predict the future and what's going to happen. But I think one thing I want to circle back to that you talked about is a mentor. And I think having a mentor in the similar industry is very beneficial. And so did you have a mentor at the beginning or do you still have one?
No, I did not at the very beginning. And I'm trying to like trace the timelines now. Not in the first 2 years, but it was by the end of like my 2 years where I was like, I started questioning because I was so burnt out constantly, but my revenue wasn't growing. And I was like, I remember sitting in this exact room thinking like, how do other businesses do it? How come like they can do it and I can't? And then I actually don't know how the idea came to my head, but I just said like, I need to find someone who knows more than me was the goal. And then I joined a coaching agency. One of the best decisions, they weren't specializing in e-commerce or retail, but what they were specializing in was teaching you how to create a business with good structure. And that was a game changer for me. That was what enabled me to then like start to grow without as much burned out, really. And also without like uncertainty, which is like the best thing because like you have someone that has, 10 plus years more experience. Again, not really in e-commerce. So I wouldn't say you need to also, in my case, I wouldn't say like finding a mentor that's especially in e-commerce would have like made a huge difference for me. But finding a mentor in business structuring is really important first for me.
I think you really hit the nail on the head with that is finding a mentor. I think too in the stage of where you are with your business will help too in what you're looking to grow and scale on. Like there's incredible, and I know like I think a lot of the market's very saturated with coaches and all that, but then finding someone who not only you resonate with, but is going to get you what your goal is for whatever phase of your business that you're in. And I think that's something that's really important. And you really like have highlighted that. And I resonate with that a lot too, is that I had a mentor when I first started out my own business and he helped me. He's about 10 years ahead of me. And so we talked a lot about systems, and he has kind of the same, structure as me a little bit. And I'm starting to like, now that I'm kind of the training wheels are coming off, and like, I don't want to say I'm outgrowing him, but he was there. He served the purpose to help me get
Yes.
started. And now I see him not as a mentor, but as a colleague, which is really exciting too. Is
Aw.
like, yeah, like now there's that growth, but like he definitely was there for me when I needed it, when I needed help. And so I think that's like important too. And you kind of touched on that, is finding someone like, yeah, you could do the e-commerce coach specifically for something, but you could also get a coach to help you. It could even just be with confidence. It could be
Yes.
something that like there's all sorts of coaches out there now. And I'm I am, launching a mentorship program in 2026 to help people who want to start their own architecture business. And so,
Amazing.
yeah, I think, yeah. So after my ebook, people have been reaching out, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe I can do some sort of mentorship, because now I feel like I'm in a position to help someone who started their business. Yet I'm still
Yes.
seeking, like this past week, I signed up for a mentorship program from someone who's also 10 years ahead of me. And I'm constantly seeking membership, but I'm also in the position where I can now give back as well. So it's like, and I know I'm going to learn from the people who are asking me questions. How did you do stuff? So it's like, it's a really fun part of entrepreneurship
It
where,
is.
yeah, isn't it, right? Like, I feel
Yeah.
like I thought like entrepreneurship would be so lonely and it would just be me, because I'm working from, my guest room, my guest bedroom, it's my office now. And I was like, I'm going to be so lonely. And honestly, like even just connecting, like even with you, I mean, you're in Australia, I'm in California, but just the other entrepreneurs who, regardless of if they're in the architecture industry, but just like entrepreneurs are like the kindest, nicest people who want you to win. Like they want you to grow. They want to support you. Like it's like this really, like if I meet another entrepreneur, like it's always like
Yeah.
we're all cheering each other on. Like I don't feel like there's ever this like competition. I always feel like there's this, okay, if you do good, I do good. Like we're all in it together through the highs and lows. Like there's enough work to go around for everyone.
That is so, so true. And I'll share a really nice story with you as well. So, sometime last year, I was looking for a marketing agency, and I don't know how it is in the US, but it's so hard here in Australia to find one that's honest, that's
Mm.
efficient, that actually cares about where they're spending your money instead of just
Mhm.
like inflating the numbers to look good. And there was something about one agency where, like on paper, they sounded good, but something my instincts was telling me something was off. So I went on this like little stalking spree on like their past clients that was like on their website. And I found one. She does like hair heating tools, and she's like
Mm.
really big business now. And I reached out to her on Instagram, just like I didn't think she would respond, but I just thought I had to try. And
Yeah.
I was like, could I just pick your brain for like a minute? I know you're really busy. Like, I won't take a lot of your time. I just wanted to ask about this agency. And she was like, sure, here's my number. Give me a call. Called her. I think we spoke for almost like 45 minutes, and she just gave me like a lot of like really helpful information. And I was so
Mm.
grateful for that. And she said, look, I know how hard it is. Like any secure entrepreneur knows how hard it was. And that's why they
Mhm.
are not afraid to share information.
Mhm.
And that was very eye opening. And in fact, I even got advice again from someone I connected with on Instagram. I mean, I also
Mm.
met her in person, but yeah, and she was in the jewelry industry. And I wasn't really expecting her to give me advice considering, like, in the same industry, but she absolutely gave me like a whole email of like action plans that would help me.
So
It's so
amazing.
beautiful. And yeah, that's when I realized that it's really the more secure entrepreneurs that
Mhm.
can relate. You've started so small, like we know how difficult it is. I have all this information. I'm happy to like share with you.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it is. I think you're right. It is the secure entrepreneurs. Well, Tiffany, this conversation has flown by. I can't believe
I
how long we've been
know.
talking. I wish we could continue more, but this has been such an incredible conversation. I feel I definitely needed it. Like I mentioned, if anybody listens, like you can tell I'm a little sick, under the weather, but this was so worth just connecting with you and talking. And I'm so glad you reached out. Like I said, you were on my list for 2026
Oh,
to reach
that's so
back out to.
nice.
Yeah, I'm having more and more repeat guests on, because I want to check in with you. Where are you in your, journey? What's going on? There's so much life happens, and it's always so interesting to hear, and, just how everybody works on their business. And it's been amazing to see you grow and just to see your business change. And I'm really excited for you, especially in the year to come with combining the companies and just everything that you are doing.
Yeah, and likewise with you. And I also wanted to quickly touch base, like the reason entrepreneurship can be lonely, like sometimes I still feel like it's lonely, but the fact that you don't, it's because you actively make steps to make sure it doesn't feel lonely. Like, you're doing a podcast and now you want to do mentorship. So kudos to you as well.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And I know before we got on the call too, you mentioned that you launched something new recently. Do you want to share with the listeners what you've been working on?
Literally today, for the very first time ever, the Traveler series has launched mystery boxes.
Yay.
Yeah, it's something we've never done before. So I'm really excited to see how this goes. And yeah, I don't have any data on this, but for sure I'll be sharing it with you next time.
Yeah, no, that's super exciting. And I'll provide links in the show notes for you if any listener wants to do that. And where can listeners find you, Tiffany?
They can find me on my Instagram at Tiffany Teoh, which I think you might need to drop it in here. And I recently opened a TikTok as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, finally on the TikTok wagon. So those are the two places you can find me personally. Otherwise, you can see my jewelry on the Traveler series, same handle for both Instagram and TikTok.
Perfect. Well, Tiffany, thank you so much for taking the time to come back on the From the Honeycomb podcast. I'm really grateful for our long distance friendship and entrepreneurship relationship. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for having me as well again.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of From the Honeycomb podcast. If you enjoyed it, please take a moment to rate, review, and share it with your friends. To stay connected, follow me on Instagram at From the Honeycomb podcast. And you can support the podcast through the Patreon link in the show notes. And don't forget to subscribe to my monthly newsletter where I share exclusive behind-the-scenes content and tips on running a mindful and successful architecture business. Thank you again for listening, and stay curious.